Hello and happy almost Halloween. I'm Jenny with GoBox Art Crate, and I am coming to you today to teach this cute little pink ghost ornament. And we later on we'll put the string through it. You can use the string that comes with it, which is this little shiny gold string that's stretchy, or you can get a cute ribbon or something, but the hole is very small. You could probably drill it a little bigger if you had to do that. I don't think that would be a problem. These are like a pressed board sort of material. They're pretty sturdy little things. I like the consistency of the size and the consistency of the surface as opposed to painting on a wood slice from the trunk of a tree, which I love the look of how those are in the end, but in ordering them for years and years and years for different classes, I do notice there's a lot of inconsistency, and especially inconsistency where the hole is drilled. So sometimes you might get an ornament that's kind of pear-shaped rather than circular, which is fun, but they've drilled the hole in a really weird spot. So I do like these. But with all that being said, let's go ahead and get started. Again, we're GoBox Art Crate. Like, subscribe, all of that stuff. It's fun. We have a lot of different projects. We've been doing this since 2019 and teaching art classes since 2011 in person. Today's palette, I just have black, white, and this is phthalo red. You can see the little bottles here that come with your kit. And this color, obviously, we're going to be mixing it with white later on. I'm using our 4-brush pack, which you can buy, I think it's like $12 on our site. And this will last a long time as long as you just wash your brushes with warm soapy water and let them air dry flat. They will last you forever. So let's take our biggest brush to start. And you don't have to wet it down because this is such a small surface. We're just going to paint the entire surface black. And I'm not doing a super thick coat here because I do want this to dry pretty quickly. And it does. On the wood surface, it dries pretty quick. We actually start off by painting our ghost white, and then we add the pink later. That helps make it more opaque. We do a lot of shading. The ghost itself is very simple. The project is very simple, but the shading we do to make this fabric look a little more three-dimensional is what will take a little while with this, but it's all good. It's good learning stuff. Painting fabric is hard. Painting drapey fabric is very, very hard. But little tips and tricks along the way. It's mainly the shading and highlighting that really make it. So I'm just sort of manipulating my brush strokes now that the paint's all wet and I've got a full coat on here. I'm just going to go one direction. You can go sideways, or you can go down, pulling down to the bottom, or you can go from the bottom, pulling up. It doesn't matter. Just gonna even out this coat here, and I'm painting my fingers like crazy. You can paint the sides of this, the back. You could paint the sides of this black, and then you could use like the handle of your brush and do little pink dots all around. That would be really cute. Or you can do the project again on the back side. That's kind of the nice thing about these, is you have two sides to work with. And also, because it is a project that starts with black paint, if you mess up anywhere along the way, you can really easily just paint right over it with black and start over. In fact, this guy here, there was a painting under this, and here's one on the back. I don't remember what it was. I think it was a little camper, because I was doing a summer, this was for our August 2022 art box. I was doing a summer painting series, and the camper ended up really bad, so I just painted black over it and pulled this out the other day and was like, hey, I've got a black ornament ready to go. All right, so this is drying while I'm jabbering. I'm going to go ahead and wash my brush. So yeah, you will want to have a cup of water nearby, and I just try to do like room temp water. Hot water can kind of bend your brushes a little bit. So if you ever need to reshape brushes, you can actually dip them in boiling water, and carefully, so you don't burn yourself, while it's still warm, you can reshape the bristles. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't, but it's worth a shot before throwing your brush away. All right. right, so just drying that off. We actually don't use this brush anymore. We can put that aside. We are going to use a combo of these three. And primarily it'll probably be the smaller brush. Well, we'll see when we get to the other stuff. So let's, I'm just thinking here, I want this to dry. It's actually getting pretty dry. I think it's dry enough to start. So the ghost is just centered. Pay attention as you're working along to where this hole is drilled, because I tend to get going on art projects and then forget. I get so into what I'm doing and forget and then realize, oh, okay, so when this hangs, it's going to hang totally crooked. So yeah, just pay attention to that. And when we start our ghost, that's what helps a lot. So let's pick up our smallest brush to sketch this out. This one, I do want you to dip it in the water and put a little drop of water or two next to your white and stir a little white paint into it. We want this slightly watered down, just a little thin mix here for sketching. And anytime you mix paint with a brush, you end up with a lot of paint on your brush. Sometimes you want that, in this particular case, because we're going to be doing some fine work, we actually want to blot that off on your paper towel or paint rag, whatever you're using. And then just read up the tip of the bristles in the color. So that way we're not starting off fine lines with big blobby paint on the brush. So let's drop just below the hole here, maybe about, gosh, it's probably only 1/4 of an inch. There, I'll make a dot. That's going to mark off where the top of the head is. Now he's kind of narrow up here, and then the fabric flares out, which is fun. So let's go ahead and turn this into sort of a narrow rainbow shape. I think I need a little more paint on here, especially so you guys can see it. So this is like a skinny, tall rainbow. Not one of those big wide ones. And now I'm going to sketch down. And look how I'm slightly flaring out, because I want this to kind of flare out a bit. Right about there. And this, what I'm doing right now, it definitely won't end up looking exactly like this, because there'll be little things that are different. So yours doesn't have to look exactly like this either. You can make the fabric drape out more dramatically if you want. So here I'm going to just sort of do a little wave. Just doing this right here. And then what I do, I like to draw this part. And see, it's kind of like a triangle without a top. So I'm going to come right up in here, come down, connect there. But then I take that line a little further, and I like to do another kind of drapey shape like that. And my paint here is turning kind of gray because of the wet black paint. That's totally okay. Everything gets covered up. Now I'm going to do the same thing here. This one I made a little bit narrower so that they're not all exactly the same. So let's start right about here. Come down, connect. And let's go down a little further, not too far. And we'll do that again, that kind of swoopy shape. Back up. Let's end it just short of the others so they're not all ending at the exact same. This one kind of did. It doesn't look bad. And let's do this last one here. If you've got room for one more outside of these three, you can totally do that. So I'm going to come down. This one's going to be short like that one, so it's not going to come down as long as these two. And just do a little swoop. There. We've got our ghost shape already. Yay. This is probably the hardest part. Actually, no, the shading will be what will be the time consuming. This might be the most nerve-wracking part though. Let's wash that brush off and set it aside. We'll use it again later. But for now, I want to pick up either of these two brushes. A lot of you might feel more comfortable working with this smaller one, which is the number 4. But yeah, number 8. This one's covered in paint. I think it's number 4. Yes, I scratched it off. It is number 4. Okay, so go ahead. You don't need to dip this in water. Let's pick up some white paint. You don't have to use the watered down kind, just regular white paint. I'm not going to load my brush up with a whole lot. So you can see here, there's not a lot of paint there. I'm going to start at the top and work my way down. And yes, this will mix with the slightly damp black paint back here. That's okay. If you don't like that and it bothers you, then go run to your bathroom with this, grab your hairdryer and dry it for 30 seconds or so. Now we are going to be careful around these. So what I did is I left a little bit of black background. That's what helps make these look more defined. So let's come down here and look what I'm doing brush stroke wise. I'm kind of following this curve to link it up in here. And then I'm going to leave this little skinny edge of black right there. And now I'll start with this bigger one. Same thing, and just kind of follow the whatever curve you've got going down here. You can get up here, you can change your brush stroke. I'm letting my brush just kind of run out of paint as I work my way towards this one. Again, leaving that little skinny edge of black, which will get smaller as we work in more colors. These are really fun to do. I made one with a haunted house, which will probably go as a set with this one. And then I made one that has an owl on it, which I'm not 100% sure of. It didn't end up as cute as I wanted it to. What I had in my head was not exactly what came out onto the surface of the ornament. They are really fun though. I love doing small work like this. And I also enjoy this very smooth surface. So over on this side, particularly if you are right-handed, I think your hand can get in the way. So one of the things I like to do is just turn this. And you can utilize that thin edge of the brush. Now I'll turn it back. There we go. Already looks like a ghost. Hey, how about that? One of the things I want to do next before I start doing anything else is I'm going to sort of reduce the black lines here just a bit. So I'm going to turn my ornament this way and use that thin edge of the brush and just come a little bit closer, just reducing this width of this black line here. You can see already it looks a little bit better. And what I'm doing right now is just kind of wiping off excess paint from my brush by putting it on this area that's going to be in highlight. And now I can work in here with less paint on the brush. Cool. Now I got to do this one. Again, I'll just take advantage of that bright white paint I just put on here, the fresh coat of paint on the brush, and then work it in. And now as my brush has run out of some paint, I can come in here. All right. We could even reduce those more, but I think we'll have more opportunities as we add in the pink, there's different shades of pink. You can, at the top of these, I'm just barely touching my brush to this. I have very little, almost no paint, just a tiny bit. Just sort of smudging out the tops of these so they're not so obvious. They blend a little better. Fun. Okay. We want that guy to dry just a bit. And so we'll take this time now and we can start sketching this stuff on, the vines with the hearts. There are little vines behind there. They don't show up very well, which is why I put the little white dots on there. And that actually ended up being really fun, nice part of the design. Now you don't have to do hearts. If you have like some green paint or some blue and yellow paint, you could do, I've seen a similar thing with ferns that come up on either side. I thought the hearts were kind of cute because of the pink. He's a Valentine ghost. He's a lovey-dovey ghost. Let's wash this brush. We're gonna go to our smallest brush again. One of the things that is so helpful for doing this small stuff, with teaching it online, I'm going to use paint because that's what comes in our kit. But if you ever get to an arts and crafts store or order from one online, there is a acrylic marker called Posca. Let me see if I can, I'm at my desk. I'll see if I can pull this one out. These are so cool. I love them. They're so expensive though. But you only need you can get just your basic set that would have black, white, some of the primary colors. I do special order pink ones. Not really special order. They have them in stock just because I love pink. But this, you just draw. Okay, I need to shake this one in. What you do is you shake it, mix up all the paint inside, and then you do that thing where you, press it a bunch of times to get the paint flowing. That was a bit too much. But you can use this to draw the vines and things like that. For anything that you do, any kind of small work that you do. I also love using the white version of this to do stars. Super easy. Here's my white version. I apparently had it handy. But I highly recommend picking up a set of those if you like to treat yourself with art supplies. They do come in handy. Okay, so smallest brush. Now I'm going to make, remember how we watered down the white earlier? We're going to water down some white and pink. It's okay if your water's kind of gray like mine. Now you can make this a light pink or you can make it a darker pink. But you do want to have a little water mixed in there because we are drawing fine lines. Having your little brush run out of paint constantly is super irritating when you're trying to get a nice smooth vine. So again, I've got a lot of paint on my brush just from mixing it together. So you can, a couple things you can do. You can pull and twist. That knocks off excess paint. I love doing that. And then you just redip the bristles. Or you can do what I did earlier, wipe your brush off and then redip the bristles. So let's talk about these vines. They just come up on either side. They're not even, they're not exactly the same. And I tend to try not to be that OCD about my vines because it's really hard to get them exactly the same. And let's face it, nature is not all uniform. Unless you live in an HOA like I do, then it better well be uniform. But yeah, nature's very random. These are like some kind of natural vine in the ghost world. So now this one, you can do whatever you want. You can curl it the same way, or you can curl it towards the ghost, or you could even do something like this and have something sprout off. Maybe I'll do that here too. I like to curl those in the opposite direction. Look at me, I'm trying to be the same again. I'm gonna do this one down lower so that I'm not acting like an HOA. So the key here is to press very light. I probably should have said that already. I keep my pressure really light. I have the watered down paint. The harder you push, the thicker your vines are going to be. The cool thing here is, let's say you got chonky vines and you're really unhappy with it. Just go back to this big brush, a little bit of black. Make sure this is dry or it's going to mix with the black. And just give it a coat, let it dry, and then start over. That's one of the fun things about starting with a canvas that's black. Very easy fix. Okay, our ghost is dry now. At least mine is. If yours isn't, pause it, wait a bit, grab a cup of coffee, do something, or use your hairdryer and accelerate that drying along. So I'm going to now start mixing in the pink. So let's take our biggest brush to mix. And I'm just making a pale pink, kind of like what we just used. Nice little pastel baby pink. I think I could even go lighter. I have on this ghost, I actually painted this last night. My eyes were so tired and I should have taken my contacts out and put my reading glasses in, which might be why these vines are kind of funny. But yeah, I used a whole lot of shades. I used light pink, medium pink, dark pink, and then I came back with white highlights. And it just, both things work together and make it look good. So again, I've mixed paint. I've got a lot on my brush. To utilize the paint and save it and use it more, just wipe it on your palette. We may end up needing 2 coats of this. Let's go ahead and fill in the whole top of the head. I'm using my number 8 brush, but in just a second, I'm going to switch down to my number 4. Okay, I'm about ready. Actually, I could come down in here, get this larger area. I tend to be a bit of a lazy painter. Don't want to work too hard. So I use the bigger brushes to get the bulk out of the way. Okay, now I'm going to switch. So I'll wash this guy off. Okay, number 4 is up. Let's go ahead and start working this pink in. Okay, so let's do what we did last time with the white. You're going to come along here, use the thin edge of your brush to get a nice clean line. And I'm going to follow this bend, moving towards the right. Just kind of letting my brush run out of paint. And same thing here. You can just use the thin edge and just go straight. A lot of people like to do it that way. Just do a straight line to border it off. Today is Friday, September 9th. My daughter and I have been watching Halloween TikTok compilations on YouTube. They're pretty fun. We are the type of people who absolutely are obsessed with Halloween, love it so much. I'm going to turn this now. And yeah, so it's been inspiring. This is a very inspiring time for me. A lot of times during spring and summer, I start losing inspiration for painting. And I just know that I'm going to get it back in the fall and winter. And I think it's just because I love doing holiday theme paintings and things of that sort. So yeah, you know, Halloween is going to fly up here. My son keeps track of the days, and I think last night he told me there's 50 some. I know if I did the math. I'd be able to tell you instantly how many days, but I'm an art person, not really a math person. You guys can do the math. All right. Coming along here. Clean up this edge if needed. I've got a little funky spot. And if you need to take your littlest brush and touch up the bottom edge, you can. Like, especially if your light pink is a little bit darker than mine, you can see your white lines. You can do that. They're not super visible, and I don't really think it is much of a problem if it is kind of visible. But I do see a spot I want to fix on the top of the head. I've got a gap here. Looking good. Looking good. We are getting there. And we can actually start bringing in some shading right now while this is still wet, because sometimes the wet on wet shading works really good and you can get a nice shade without messing things up too bad. I'm going to wash my brush off and I'm going to mix in to my light pink some more of the just straight up phthalo red. So you get a darker shade. This is the shade of like if you were to blend raspberries and vanilla yogurt together, that's the color you'd get. And I've got a lot of paint on the brush. Gonna wipe some of that off. In fact, I might even dab it on my paper towel because I want to start with very little. Let's start with an easy part. Let's just go from the top of the head, curve down to there, and see if this works. If the paint's dry enough. It doesn't have to be 100% dry. Like I was saying, wet on wet shading works really good. But sometimes the paint is, the base coat that we just put on can be a little too wet. And what you'll notice happening is this coat you're putting on right now will sort of push the base coat aside. And rather than going on top of it, they're just not working together. If that is happening to you, just wait a few minutes. Wait for this paint to get tacky. So what I like to do here, you can see I have a definite line where the pink shows up. That's okay, but I do like this blended look. So I'll wipe my brush off, and while that's still wet, I just sort of haze out the edges. And you can do that if your color's dried too much and it's not hazing. You can go back with a tiny bit of the light pink and work it along the edge of this to just sort of blend it. Yeah, that worked out pretty good. I know I want to bring some shading down in here. So this particular part of the ghost is going to be a little bit more in the shadow. I designed it so our light source is somewhere over here. That's why we have all the highlights on the edges of the fabric and the shadows are on the opposite edges. And that's what helps make it look three-dimensional. We'll shade more of this darker pink in a little while. And I do want to blend this out. I'm getting a little too separated, I guess, not blended enough. So I washed my brush. I'm going to show you now how I would blend using the light pink. Very little paint on the brush, and I'll just go along the edge here, sort of feather it in. I've got a funky glare. I don't know if that's showing up on the camera or not. I've got this light here that's a filtered soft box, and maybe you can see it. Maybe you can see the painting okay, but I've got glare. There, yeah, so that is a better transition from the lighter color to the dark color. So now I'm going to wash my brush again. Technically, probably could have just wiped it off. Let's go to pick up a little dark pink again. See, very little. And I'm going to start along this black, just to the left of this black line here. Working my way towards the left. And even though I had such a tiny amount of paint on there, I'm still running into the problem of, okay, where do I keep pushing this? Because I've still got paint coming out. So I'm just going to work it around until my brush runs out of paint. I can even come in here a little bit more to haze the edges out. Okay, same thing here. This part's going to be in shadow. We're going to come just right up to the top of that. So if you look at the original, this actually the darker pink kind of makes a triangular shape. So we just come to the very top of that and then shade out this way. If you are ending up with the problem of too much paint on your brush and you're running out of places to push that paint to, wipe your brush off and go back. Just remember, you can always go back to this light pink to soften anything that ended up a little too shaded. I'm gonna go back here, get a tiny bit more shading so it's a little more dramatic down in these lower, be like the lower right corners of the ghost. I would love to see a pink ghost. Wouldn't that be fun? It wouldn't be scary at all. I think they'd be a happy, fun, welcome ghost. Okay, so same thing with this last little chunk of fabric. It's that kind of triangular shape, tall, skinny triangle. We are leaving these black lines, but you can bring a little of this, if you have just a tiny bit of paint on your brush, you can bring a little of that pink over the top, just glaze over very, very lightly, just a little bit at a time to just soften up how dark and harsh the lines are. So I ended up getting a little bit of shading right here where I don't want it to be because this part would be grabbing light. That's okay. I'm gonna come back with some light pink in a bit and fix that right up. I'm gonna go back now with a little more of this color on the right side of the head here. Just sort of come down. I love doing this very simple shading and highlighting. It's so much fun. And maybe it's not 100% fun if you're a beginner, but it will get to where it's a lot more fun and you're learning and you're feeling a lot more confident. Art is so much about confidence, and the confidence comes from painting and painting and painting and learning from your mistakes. Which I've done that so many times, which is why I end up with like black canvases and black ornaments, because I don't want anyone to ever see that my mistake painting ever existed. Okay, so I am washing my brush off. I'm gonna let this dry just a bit before coming back in with some more dimension. But let's go ahead and paint our little hearts on here. I'm trying to remember what brush I use. I think I just used the smallest brush. And you can do those in any color. You could use the light pink or the dark pink. You could do gray by mixing white and black. You could do white and black and mix a little pink in it so you have kind of a smoky pink. Whatever you want to do. Maybe do multiple. I just did somewhere between these two colors. I'm going to grab a little more white. Throw it in there. They get a highlight later. It's optional. That was one of those things I was like, should I add a highlight? I don't know. I'll do it. I'm going to add a little water to this because we are working with this small brush and drawing things. Now, if you have a lot of paint on your brush from mixing, do the old pull and twist thing. Redip the tip of the bristles. And let's just start down low. Just make a little tiny heart by doing two little swoops on each side. So it almost is like how you draw leaves on a flower. And fill that in. Not so bad. And then like up in here, thinking here, I'll do a little heart right here. Maybe a little tiny one. Let's see how tiny you can paint. If you have an even smaller brush than this, that would be cool. Or use it if you have one of these, especially the fine point. This really isn't this is a bullet shaped one. They make them so they're really fine. Let's see, I'll do a little heart here. I try to make, if I have a small one here, I'll try to make a bigger one here. Or an even smaller one, just so they're not the same size. I think my hearts that I'm doing right now are ending up much neater than these. And that was just because my contacts were drying out. I was tired. I should have put my reading glasses on. Reading glasses are new. I just got them. I was like, I had an eye appointment and I went in and I was like, I think I'm at that age. I think I'm at that age where I need reading glasses. And man, they help. So as you can see, I'm just going up along here And you can mix in smaller size ones if you want. Oh, this is ending up so cute. I love it. You can keep going. You can go around this little loop-de-loop. Doing the tiniest one I can manage with this brush, right there. And some of these might need a second coat. They're going to dry super fast. So you can go back pretty soon without waiting too long and beef them up with a second coat. It's going to make them a lot more opaque. That is so cute. Oh my gosh, it's so much better than that one. Guess I shouldn't paint when I'm tired. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with this one. Some people might find it easier to do what I just did rather than drawing a heart and filling it in. You might find it easier to just draw an angled line and then another angled line to start with your basic heart shape and then just sort of refine the edges. I do a combination of both. You've probably seen me do that throughout this. How about an itty bitty one right there? This is the love ghost. Could do this for Valentine's Day too. You just have to come up with some like silly little phrase to write on the back if you were like gifting this to someone. Some silly little phrase that mentions a ghost or spirit. My spirit belongs to you. Yeah, I probably wouldn't be very good at writing Hallmark cards. It would take me forever to come up with a phrase. If you can think of one, please post it in the comments. Now, if you find that your brush feels like it's getting too blunt on the ends and your hearts aren't turning out as good, that happens. It's just from paint being loaded up on it. So you can wash the brush, clean it off real good, dry it off. Refresh the tip of the brush just by pinching it down to a point. And then the other thing you can do is maybe your water in your paint has evaporated a little bit. You can add another drop of water. Just gonna curve that around a little more. Okay, now if you need, I need more paint. If you need, you can go back and get a second coat on any of these and any of these too. So the Halloween TikTok compilations I was talking about, I would say 80% of them feature people in like Home Goods, TJ Maxx, Marshalls, those kind of places, finding all the Halloween stuff and filming themselves finding it. There's some really nice stuff, and it feels like there's more nice stuff this year than there even was last year. I think Halloween has become such a decoration-driven holiday, which I love. I mean, it has been for years, but I know definitely over the years we've decorated our house more and more and more, and then we end up like needing to rent a storage unit to store all of our holiday decorations. All right, the hearts look really cute. You can see, like I said, they're a little bit better than this one. This one's really cute. It's just the hearts are chunkier. And I think now I've got good shading on here. Let's try out doing a slightly darker shade along here. And I think I'm going to use my number 4 brush again. That's your second smallest in the pack. Let's dip it in straight phthalo red. So last time we had it mixed with a little bit of white. So you can see this is much darker. I want to swipe off most of that. So I have just a little ghost layer. See what I did there? Let's come along the edge. I'm going to piece of dried paint right along this outermost edge, using the thin, skinny part of your brush. So that'll give you more dramatic shading, and you can do that on the rightmost edges of any of these drapings of fabric, using very, very little paint. And it's not a huge difference from what we had before, but that's kind of what this is. It's gradual shades of color. I'm gonna wash the brush now. We don't have a lot left to do, but we do need to clean up some of the shading and highlighting and add more highlights, and then we'll finish up the vines and we'll be done. Oh, and we need to add the eyes. That's important. Okay, so let's make our light pink again. So white with phthalo red. It can be even lighter than the last shade you put on there, but you don't want it to be darker. So what you want to do, get it mixed up, and then hold your brush up to this and compare, and that way you know. You can even do a little swipe of paint. Yeah, I can see it's pretty much the exact same color, little tiny bit lighter. I have a lot of paint on the brush. I'm actually going to wipe this off on my paper towel. Re-dip the tip of the bristles, and I'm going to come down here with very little paint. So much of this, because it's so small and we have a lot of shading, so much of it is done with very, very little paint. I know I've mentioned that a lot. I want to drive that point across. Very little paint. Okay, and what I'm doing here, coming along and then bumping into the shadow a little bit as your brush runs out of paint, just to blend the two together, especially if you have any areas that feel kind of harsh. And right here, I'm going to fix up this one spot. This is going to grab the light source more than this area here, so it's going to be a lot lighter and brighter. And if you have pretty harsh lines in the transition, wipe your brush off, use just that really thin, what I call the ghost layer of paint. Ghost layer for the ghost. And just sort of, see, I'm kind of swirling my brush around in little circles just to sort of haze out the edge of that dark. This one too is going to have a strong highlight along this edge. I'm going to come up here a little bit more. And if you see any areas where the paint's maybe a little thin, that original base coat, and you want to get some more pink on there, you can. The ghost doesn't have to be opaque though. I mean, technically, they're kind of transparent. Now this one, it's the furthest away from the light source, so it really doesn't have a lot of highlight, just a skinny little edge along here. And I know right now I can tell I used a little too much paint, so I'm going to wipe my brush off and just very lightly work that in. There. I think that's pretty good. Pretty good. Okay, so let's wash this brush. Everything else we do from here on out is using the smallest brush, so we're done with all of these others. Let's, while the ghost dries, let's get our little brush going and work on the fines. So all we're gonna do here is dip the very tip of the bristles in white. Alternatively, you can use the handle. You can dip the handle in white to do the dots. But this tends to be really big. They're pretty big dots when you use this. You'd have to like stamp it several times on your palette before touching your surface with it, and it's a little less predictable than just using the very tip of the bristles and just stamping it to the surface. So I'm just spacing these millimeters apart from each other and going along the vine, which is cute. It kind of makes it look like they're little pearls or dewdrops or something like that. I have mine spaced pretty close together. I like that look. I like the look of a little more detail. Sometimes that can be, for this sort of project, being detail oriented is great because we're doing little work, tiny little surface. For doing larger landscapes and things like that, I fight the urge to over detail, and I have fought it for years and years. And it's just something that I think my brain will always have. But it does give me a nice challenge when I am painting landscapes, clouds, that kind of thing. It's nice to have a challenge and be like, okay, I'm going to work on loosening up on my clouds, that kind of thing. But yeah, for this, detail is good. These little details make this look so cute. Now I could leave it like that. The highlights, maybe they'll distract from the dots a little bit. Let's go ahead and try and see, because the cool thing is, if the highlights distract from the dots and you don't like how they end up, let them dry and then come back with the light pink. All I'm going to do is do a little swoop on the left side of each heart. And you know, it barely shows up because my pink is so light. Yeah, I don't think that makes a huge difference, which is good. It's not going to distract. Maybe these tiny hearts, you could even leave them without the highlight. Nobody's going to know. So I've mentioned when I do these ornament paintings, I've mentioned that my favorite thing to do with these, because a lot of people don't have Halloween trees. Plus, these are kind of big and heavy for hanging on like one of those mini Halloween trees. It's kind of cool that stores are selling artificial black trees, 'cause that seems to be a trend, the Halloween trees. But anyway, so what I do a lot of times is throughout October, we get invited to the occasional Halloween party, barbecue, whatever. And I like to, when I put the string on it, I like to just loop it over the neck of a wine bottle and give it to as a hostess gift. You might not want to give yours away. So, and I have that as well. I have so many of them that I just love. I'm like, I'm never going to give that away. And so I have a little baby grand piano that has lots of decorative stuff on it. And I put a wine bottle, empty wine bottle with a candle in the top, and drape the string that's right over the neck of the wine bottle. It looks so cool. I love it. Okay, now let's get some white highlighting on this. It would be the left side of the ghost, left side of this and the left side of these little fabric areas, and then we'll put the eyes on and we'll be all done. So white paint, tip of the bristles. Let's just come down here. Start at the top of the head and just curve with the body. Now you can, if you want, if this feels a little harsh and you just suddenly have this white line that's not blended, go back to your number 4 brush and just haze out the edge here by pulling it very lightly towards the right. If you feel more comfortable using this number 4 brush instead of the little brush to do all of your highlights, go for it. I feel like I could even bring a little bit stronger highlight inward. Wiping the brush off. Now I'm just going to haze that out. So I'll just keep this handy. I'm not going to do any more highlights on the upper part of the body, just down on these fabric areas. Again, I'm just sort of hazing out the edge here. This edge along here on the left side can be very strong, but as you get in here, you kind of want to soften it up a bit. Yeah, I like this, the combination of the two brushes. Working good. This last little draping of fabric is going to have a small highlight, most likely. Got one spot I want to touch up with some darker pink. All right, let's wash that little brush when you're ready. If you're not ready, just pause the video. You'll get there. And I'm going to paint the eyes. They are two sort of long ovals, but you could do round eyes. You could do sunglasses. I've seen a bunch of pictures of ghosts with sunglasses lately on like Pinterest, and I think they're really cute. So let's, sunglasses might be kind of hard to draw though. Let's take the very tip of the bristles, get a little black on there. And one thing that's helpful is if you just dot little tiny dots where you want the eyes to be. And you could leave it like this if you want. For some reason, when I do this, it reminds me of like kind of octopus looking. I think it's partly the color, the color in these little eyes. We did a kid's painting of an octopus that had little eyes and it was pink. So I guess that's why I'm reminded of that. So then I'm just going to do ovals, or you could do teardrop shapes, would be really cute too. Like this one sort of ended up slightly teardroppy. Did I miss a spot? Oh, I did. And if you mess up on the eye and you need to touch anything up, let it dry or hair dry it. Go back to your light pink. Make sure you hold the brush up to it before you touch the ornament with it, and just touch up right around the eyes with the light pink. And then when you are finally done, you can string the string through. Because this is real stretchy, I cut mine pretty short. So short I can't tie it. But you can have it whatever length. And like I said, if you find a cute ribbon that would fit through here, or embroidery thread, whatever you want to do. Not everyone's into the gold. Like pink would be really cute here. But that's it. Other options you can do is if you had like Mod Podge and glitter, which will come in the kit for the haunted house ornament. The Mod Podge does, but like you could put black glitter back here. Mod Podge and black glitter come in the kit, but if you had pink glitter at home, you could totally put the pink glitter on the ghost. The eyes would be a great place to put the black glitter on, so if you want to do that, you totally can. But that is it. That's our cute little ghost. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time. Again, it's Go Box Art Crate. I'm Jenny, and I'll be your painting guide through the holidays. So we'll talk to you later. Bye.